I'm CA Pooja Dharia, and with me is CA Parth Gohil now. Congratulations, Parth.
Thank you so much. Thank you
He's
so much.
become a chartered accountant fresh today, and we thought what better way to celebrate this than by inviting him to our one of our offices. And we had a nice big celebration for his rank also. He's All India rank 5 CA final September 2025 exams. So we're very, very, very happy. We're very proud
Thank
of
you
you,
so much.
Parth. सबसे पहले first things first, how do you feel?
I feel surreal. I had to check my the result a couple of times just to be sure that I was pinching myself like, is this real? And then yeah, I had my family and my parents around me, and then my mom broke down, and then I also got a bit teary eyed, and all in all, and then everybody started calling. So obviously it's a crazy
Hmm.
experience. Obviously studying for this course for 5 years since foundation to final, and then eventually being done with it, and even being done with it with a good achievement. So that was something that obviously felt very good.
I think it's a very personal and an emotional moment for an entire family.
Definitely, definitely.
कि जब बेटा जो है उसने सीए कर दिया तो अभी एक जो 5 साल का वनवास हम बोलते हैं
Yes,
वो
yes, yes.
खत्म हुआ इन अ वे
Yeah, yeah.
and what a finish to
Thank
this
you.
course. I
Thank
think
you.
it's etched in history now that you will always be All India rank 5 and
Yeah,
it's a beautiful way to end this journey.
definitely, definitely. Thank you.
So tell us, Parth, now there are a lot of students who are going to view this interview, who are viewing you right now when we are talking. There are students who are going to take up the exams in Jan. There are students
Right,
who are going to take it up in May. For
right.
the benefit of everyone, I'll just say, originally, इनका जो attempt था वो November 25 था and then they had a choice कि या तो आप सितंबर में appear कर सकते हो या फिर आप January में appear कर सकते हो. So Parth, how did you bring yourself to prepone your exam by 2 months and appear in September?
So one thing that I would say that really helped me was the JK Shah classes timetable, because with the timetable I was able to finish all my classes lectures well before my study leave, and even for the November attempt I felt like I was in a very good position to tackle November, because lectures were over quite earlier, so I didn't really have to worry about finishing my lectures. But then suddenly I heard the announcement about September, and I it took me a couple of days. I had to
Hmm.
take a couple of days to kind of come to terms with what has just happened, and then I was like, okay, I am done with everything, I think I can do it. So then I started, and one thing that really helped me was being done with all my lectures. So those 4 months, 4.5 months that of leave that I got was just pure studies and test series and everything. So one thing that really helped me, that made me, I think, was the reason for the rank would be the timetable that JK Shah classes had given us, so that I was able to finish all my lectures very timely.
Thank you so much for saying that. It means a lot to us.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. But for all the students who are viewing today, just I want you to understand that when you are at that junction and to be able to take that risk, I will prepone my final C exam by 2 months and then achieving All India rank 5. I think that takes a different kind of commitment, a different kind of hard work on his end to be able to pull it off and pull it off with that much grace. So kudos to you,
Thank you.
Parth, for being
Thank you so
able to
much.
do that. All right, let's talk about your journey. So, for the
Hmm.
benefit of all the students viewing us, Parth has been with us since his CA foundation,
Right.
and he has done foundation, inter, as well as final with us. So, what would you say about your journey across the three levels, and uh, how have we been to you? You can be
Amazing,
honest.
amazing. So I remember starting my CA journey, and even without any doubt, without any second thought, the first thing I was like, if I wanted to do CA, first thing I picked up my phone, I directly called JK Shah classes, inquiring about the foundation. Then the foundation classes starting. So then they said, originally I wanted to give the May attempt, but then
Hmm.
they said the classes have already started, so you can try for the December one. And then April, May, I remember foundation classes started, and then that was like 6 months of studying every day, and I was able to score 314 out of 400 on in foundation, which was, I felt like that was something that motivated me to
Hmm.
maybe believe that I can do better. And then obviously inter started, and foundation was online. So there was still a bit of a, I would say, a handicap that
That was during the COVID
COVID
period.
period, yes,
Yeah.
2021.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a hampering. But then eventually inter started, and inter may, as soon as face to face started, I remember going, sitting on the first bench directly, because I was like, okay, I don't want to mess this up. And so then I started inter here, and I made a good group of friends. And luckily, all of my friends, we were all very like-minded. Like, we were all very determined. Like, we want to clear this. And then so all of us just used to go sit on the first, second bench, and then we were all really good terms with the professors also, because we were always on the first
First
benches.
bench.
Yeah. And then the test series. I remember our Sunday schedules would be like, so Monday to Saturdays we would be here for like 6 to 8 hours, and then on Sundays we would have a test at like 8 or 9 in the morning, and which we used to come religiously. And then we got a 1 hour break. हम लोग सामने ही जाके खाना खा लेते थे, and then we used to come back and then again sit for 6 to 8 hours.
Yeah.
यहाँ पे. And that was just 6 months. Although it feels very strenuous, but
Yeah.
looking back at it in hindsight, that was one of the most fun periods of my life, because you make so many friends, you get to learn something every day.
Correct.
And then obviously got over, and there I missed a rank. And then I felt कि maybe if I do better, I'll be able to pull it off in final. And then yeah, then final started. I started my articleship, started studying again. And even in final, I remember, I as soon as my exams got over, I joined JK Shah classes the final ka lectures very pretty soon. And that was only like a 3 month gap between my results and my classes starting. And then obviously daily, every day studying little. And then yeah, then luckily all of my lectures were already over. And then, like she said, September attempt ho gaya tha. Then since I was confident about the lectures getting over, so then I was like, okay, fine, I'll just do it. I'll just take the risk. Anyways, not many people will be willing to take the risk, so I'll try to kind of exploit that. And yeah, and then obviously with JK Shah classes, at all three levels there was constant support. The teachers, the professors, everybody, the teaching style amazing, and there was the constant doubt solving. Whatever doubts we have, going solving it on the spot, texting on the helpline numbers, everything. So everything helped me. The test series, I remember inter में the test series and everything. So yeah, all in all, I think everything that is this culminated to this rank and everything, I genuinely owe it to Jigisha Gandhi.
Oh, thank you so much for saying that. I mean, quite gracious of you to say it, especially when there are so many students who are viewing you. Thank you so much. It
No problem.
really means the world to us, because that is exactly why we are here. We want to make a difference to your life positively.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
want to
yeah.
make a difference to your life. So thank you so much for saying that. And really, this is what drives us. This is what keeps us going every single day. Thank you for saying that. And going back to your schedule, so I think he's one of the very few students who appreciate the Sunday test schedule that we have.
Definitely.
We generally get some kind of a backlash for it कि आप एक दिन आप हमको छोड़ दो.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think it builds grit.
That builds discipline.
It builds discipline.
That is.
And to kind of bring yourself to sacrifice that Sunday for straight 6 months
That is.
and
Yes, yes.
prepare for that exam, it really pays off. And at the time, if you are a CA inter student right now, you may think that's punishing at some point, because you're doing that for 6 months straight. But believe me, you put in those 6 months, and the result is not even, I'm not saying anything, the result is in front of you.
Yeah.
That is what it builds. So yes, थोड़ा सा diligent हो जाओ, थोड़ा हमको भी माफ कर दो कि आपका संडे हमने 6 महीने के लिए बिगाड़ा. But do give those tests religiously, and the result of it is right in front of you. Not missing any single test is actually the key point to it all. Just prior to speaking to you, prior to congratulating you, I had a word with All India Rank 3 CA Foundation, who's also our student, Neil.
Right.
And he mentioned the same thing, because he also went through the same schedule.
Correct.
So he said that test is something that is very important.
Right.
And he also mentioned about the doubt solving session, that those also really help. And what he was mentioning about messaging, for the benefit of students who are not part of the JK Shah Institute, we have WhatsApp helpline numbers where students can reach out. You need not be a JKSC student. Anyone from India can reach out on those helpline numbers, and our very senior teachers are handling those helplines, and we resolve all your doubts in a span of a maximum of 48 hours. That is what we do. So there are dedicated doubt solving sessions for students who learn with us, and for the student community in general, we have a 24/7 WhatsApp helpline also. So that is what he was talking about, just to give you some context. Okay, now Parth, given your achievement, of course, there are a lot of students who want to know about what you did to get here, to do things right, and
Right.
how it can help them
Right.
in their exams, which are coming up in Jan, in May, and so on. So, first things first, talk to us about your prep strategy. How did you prepare for all the subjects? What was your approach to each subject? And most important question of all, what is Parth's Waterloo subject and how did you tackle it?
Right. So starting off with the subject FR. FR was something that is not very easy, but it's a very lengthy subject. It's probably it's the
Hmm.
lengthiest
Hmm. Hmm.
subject in the final course. But still, it is a bit manageable, I feel. Anybody, especially with people who have good exposure to audit
Hmm.
in their articleships, they would be able to manage FR pretty easily. And for me, FR was not that difficult, so I was able to just kind of watch the lectures, solve the sums right there and then eventually practice sums by myself. And obviously this goes for all the subjects, is marking the sums, important sums on your
Hmm.
first revision,
Hmm.
so that you don't waste your time, don't spend too much time on the less important
Hmm.
sums later in the later revisions.
Hmm.
And so then that was for FR. I just practiced all my sums. Writing practice is a very important part of FR, because as we know, FR is the most lengthy paper as well,
Hmm.
right? So finishing the FR paper is also a bit of a task. And and full disclosure, in my actual FR paper, the 14 marker sum, I totally messed that up. And I'm managing the nerves in that. Like, I
Hmm.
remember the last 10 minutes where I was writing the paper, and I was like, okay, I do not know what to do with this sum. But managing the nerves and just moving ahead with the paper, that is something that is required in FR,
Correct.
considering it's a very lengthy subject. Moving on to AFM, AFM was my strong suit, considering I had an articleship in finance background. So luckily for me, AFM was my strong suit. So I didn't really have any trouble with AFM, and the teaching here was also very amazing. So I never really had any doubts, just solving the sums, going through the solutions, and obviously marking important sums, and then just on later revisions, not right solving everything by hand, but just kind of auditing the sums,
Hmm.
so that you don't spend too much time, because you have to kind of cut short your revision time for each
Hmm.
every revision round. And then audit, obviously, like she said, my the my I would say my weakest subject. And for audit, I would say the most important thing would be just studying audit every single day. I finished my lectures, but one mistake that I made was that I finished the subject, and like any other subject, I just thought, okay, I'm done with the subject, so now I'll move on to the next subject. I'll
Hmm.
just let audit be for a while. But that is something that is that is a big mistake that students might make, considering ICAI requires very crisp answers in audit.
Correct.
And so that's why for audit, I would recommend, after which I learned, I realized I should have done this earlier, but I was able to implement it in my study leave, was taking up audit at least once or twice, at least for 1 or 2 hours every day.
Every day.
Every day, just going through, even if you don't finish a chapter, just kind of do parts of it. Doesn't matter if you can't finish the entire chapter. Obviously, there are very big chapters in audit, you can't finish them in 1 to 2 hours. But just doing audit for 1 to 2 hours, so that you remain in touch with the language,
Hmm.
you remain in touch with the chapters, you
Hmm.
don't totally completely forget something, and then next time you pick it up and it's like a completely new subject. That doesn't happen. So that's why I would recommend, one thing for audit would be that I did, to be able to score decent marks, to be able to score much more than what I would have ever imagined. And that's why audit may 1 to 2 hours daily, that is a must, I feel. And then moving on to DT. DT is a very vast subject. DT obviously
Correct.
is so many intricacies, so many provisions, so many limits and everything. And people find DT very troubling, and it's totally understandable considering how vast the
Hmm.
income tax act is. But luckily for me, I kind of had a liking towards DT, I would say. I liked it whenever I did it. It never felt like a burden. It never felt like, okay, why do I have to do
Hmm.
this subject? And it always felt interesting to me. So that is why for every revision round, even though picking up DT might be very, it feels very concerning. Okay, this is such a vast subject. How
Hmm.
will I ever finish this? But then once I started to get in the groove of it, I realized that okay, this is a very interesting subject, and obviously the act is also interesting. So managing DT, I would say, was just going through the provisions and then solving the sums as soon as possible. Because with DT, you don't need writing practice per se, but you need to have a very good grip on the provisions, on the
Yeah.
very minute details of the act.
Hmm.
And ICI loves to test those very corners, gray areas of the
Yes.
act. And that's why I and in fact, if I remember what happened was there was one provision that even ICI wasn't sure of in the so they had actually removed that adjustment from their module, but then they ended up asking us that adjustment in the final paper. So then I remember I just writing an assumption ki, okay, and this is what I'm assuming, and I just hope maybe they'll let me give me the marks. And I don't know, I'll have to check probably. But yeah, so that is one thing in DT. You need to have a very good grip on the provisions, and for which you need a lot of practice. You
Yeah,
need a lot of
absolutely.
studying it again and again. And the more times you study, the more you get used
You
to
get
the act.
correct.
And then moving on to IDT. IDT is a fairly simple subject, at least compared to DT. Like when you move from DT to IDT, you would feel like the IDT is much simpler.
Hmm.
Even in the breadth of it, IDT is like
Concise.
very
Yeah.
concise compared to the Income Tax Act. So that is why IDT, although IDT may be confusing, but considering it's not that long of an subject, I felt like I was able to manage it
Hmm.
quite well. So even with IDT, I think for DT IDT the same thing goes. Considering the both tax acts, I think the
Hmm.
approach should be the same, wherein you study as a particular chapter and then you instantly move to the questions. You solve all the questions, you mark the important ones, and then you take them up in the next revision, which definitely helps. And with DT and IDT, the more you do it, the more rounds of revision you have for those two subjects, the better your grip gets on the
Correct.
acts. So
Correct.
for DT, IDT, I think my approach was the same. It's just constantly going through the same subject, and maybe by the second, third, fourth revision, you might feel okay, I'm doing the same thing over and over again,
Hmm.
but not getting, not thinking too much, not letting that get to your head. Oh, I've already done this 2 3 times, I don't need to do it again. That was something which was very important, which I learned. Like no matter how many times you do it, you will not remember it. There is so much. Final is such
Correct.
a
Absolutely.
lengthy course. You will forget something, so you
Hmm.
need to keep doing everything. You can't cut corners like, okay, I know this chapter, I will not do it. Nothing like that. So every time focusing on all the chapters, no matter how many times I've done them, or no matter how difficult or easy I find them, just giving equal weightage to everything. And yeah, so that was my approach for DT IDT. And then IBS is a fairly, I mean, everybody's approach is different to IBS. I would even I wasn't very sure what to do. I remember going through so many YouTube videos trying to figure out what the strategy would be. So personally, what worked for me was just taking up ICI case studies and then just try sitting and solving them.
Hmm.
And so in IBS you get 1 hour for one case study, which is for
Yeah.
25 marks.
Yeah.
So just taking ICI's case study booklet and just solving them. And obviously at the beginning it took me way longer than 1 hour. Obviously I wasn't able to finish that entire case study in 1 hour, but as and when I kept practicing it, I think I must have solved around 40 to 50 case studies before my final exam.
Wow.
So once you start solving them, you realize ki, okay, maybe this is how I can cut short time, this is how you're supposed to solve the papers. So my approach was that. So I just solved all the case studies, and in the 1.5 days of break, honestly, I did not do much. I was just, once IDT got over, in the 1.5 days everybody was confused, even I was confused. What do I study now? Do I study the entire, obviously I can't
Hmm.
study all the five
Everything.
chapters.
Correct.
And then there's costing and law, and even costing and law we've not really studied that, so we
Correct.
can't really approach it in
Hmm.
one. We can't even hope to finish it 1.5 days. But just going through a few revision lectures here and there, and just trying to solve more case studies, I would say, even in those 1.5 days, and then just keeping your cool. Because IBS is a 4 hours paper,
Yeah.
and even in those 4 hours, it is very difficult to finish that entire paper. Attempting 100 marks is a very challenging task.
Correct.
So 100 marks for that, तो इसीलिए IBS में you just need to keep your composure, you need to calm yourself down. 5 days, 5 papers of so much stress, you just need to tone, like kind of tone it back down, so that 1.5 days you kind of relax your mind, you relax your body, so that you're able to tackle that 4 hours of paper very
Absolutely.
effectively. So
Absolutely.
yeah, that was my approach.
I think what he has just said is a gold mine for the students who are now going to appear, because whatever he has said is so relatable, and it's so bang on. I think you should probably just rewatch to get more insights about this. And he's really touched a nerve which we can only try and guide you, but coming from him, because he's just been there and done that, it's all the more relevant for everyone. So thanks so much for sharing that with
No problem.
all the students. So in terms of how much you've been able to prepare, what I infer is that probably you've not skipped any part of syllabus.
No, yeah, nothing.
Big insight for all the students. Number two, you mentioned about having a couple of revisions
Yes.
before you go for your main exam.
Correct.
So how would you break it down? For example, you've come out of CA inter exams today.
Correct.
Okay, and now you have CA final exams after a couple of years.
Couple of years, right.
How would you break it down for someone who's coming out of CA inter right now, and how should you approach कौन से time तक you should aim to complete your syllabus? How many revisions, if you can just break it down?
Yes. So what I did was, as soon as inter ended, I took a couple of, because you need to search for articleship and everything, interviews and everything, and even once you join the articleship, you need some time to get used to the new environment. And so that is why I started my final studies, I think around 3-4 months after my results had come out. And so the number one thing was starting with a practical subject, obviously. So starting with FR or AFM would be the best. And so I had started with AFM. And with AFM, I think the number one thing with FR or AFM, what I did was just watching the lectures, finishing a particular chapter, and revising it as soon as possible. So once you're done with the lecture, then you eventually directly go to the sums and start solving the sums. So a revision along with your classes is a very important thing, so that once, by the time, even if you are not able to revise anything more than once, even by the time your study leave starts, you will have at least done the portion twice. That is basically once with the professor and once by yourself.
Correct.
And I think that is what helped me, having completed my portion before my study leave had started. That was something that really helped me, because I was able to dedicate my entire 4 months to just revising. So that is what I would recommend to any aspirant who's coming out of inter, going into final right now. Would be starting earlier, so that eventually at the end, even I had gotten suggestions that, abhi inter khatam ho, I take a year of break, just don't do anything, don't study, just have fun and everything. And but then eventually, although that might work for some people, but what I realized pretty soon was, in those 3-4 months, was that if I don't start it right now, eventually this is all going to just kind of become a big burden, and then which I'll have to deal with later. So instead, I would rather break it down in smaller chunks, and then I would take it up at easier intervals, so I would not have to stress myself too much in the later part of the journey. So that is why I started earlier. Every day, even if you just watch 3 hours, because with articleship, I feel like watching more than 3 hours, more than one lecture would not be possible. So I used to do was, I would take up a particular lecture, and I would watch 2 hours of it in the morning, and then 1 hour I would do it after office, something like that. So that is how I managed to finish all my lectures and start revise also even साथ में. And then once my study leave had started, since I was able to dedicate all of my time to revisions, I had planned that I would do at least 3 revisions, and three revisions के साथ audit, तो I would doing every day, so audit तो was like more than 3 revisions. But at least for all the other subjects, I would say 3 revisions. And test series, obviously, that is very important, because directly going to write the exam without any prior writing practice, considering for past 3 years you've probably not written much. So directly going into that exam would be a very bad idea. So that is why test series and revisions. As so I try to do three to
Hmm.
four revisions
Hmm.
for every subject, and test series I gave as many as I could.
Hmm.
Even if you're not able to give you're not able to give everything in writing, I would say at least give one in writing, and then maybe others you can just kind of go through the papers,
Solve it on your
solve
own.
it on your own. You don't
Yeah.
really have to go get it corrected or
Correct.
something.
Correct. Correct.
And one more thing would be that do not, I personally what I did was I did not give one the last test series that I was writing, I did not write it because that was very close to my exams, and
Hmm.
I felt like if I kind of mess up somewhere, this is totally going to shatter my
Yep.
confidence, and I
Yep.
don't want that like 1 or 2 weeks before my exam. So that is why test series, the last test series was just, I just kind of went through it on my own. I just realized, I just went through it. Okay, this I know, this I don't know, this is what I have to practice. And yeah, so that is what I would say was my approach from going from inter to final, was just studying every day,
Hmm.
being consistent, being disciplined. And 4 months mein the discipline is, that is when you need the discipline, the most.
Most.
You
Hmm.
need to delete all distractions, all your apps, all your phone पे तो कुछ रखना ही नहीं चाहिए, I would say, because you don't even realize where you spent an hour just spent on your phone. You don't even realize कि
Correct.
एक घंटा कहाँ चला है. So that is what I would say, the 4 month, the consistency and discipline, that is what I think, two things that are most important
Hmm.
in the CA course, entire course, I would say,
Hmm.
was that two things that really help you are just consistency and discipline. And it takes time to build discipline, but that is why I think you need to just keep going every day. You need to keep thinking. And small changes, like the small change that I had personally made, was that I had changed my phone's background wallpaper to just kind of something that was more motivating, so that
Hmm.
every time I looked at my phone, I would think,
It,
okay, this
you're
is, I
reminded.
need to, this
Hmm.
is why I'm doing this. So yeah, that is it, consistency and discipline, two things.
I think both are equally important in a journey like
Definitely.
CA final, and especially to kind of keep your calm, keep your nerves when you go write the first paper of FR, which
Definitely.
is made in
Made.
a way to kind of
Kind of,
break
yeah.
your
Correct,
confidence.
correct.
Thereafter, you of course go on appearing, and then you have audit, then you have DT. So, I mean, it is designed in a way that it will really make you doubt
Doubt,
yourself.
definitely.
But to kind of maintain that calm and keep your nerves together and say, no, I've prepared
Prepare.
enough for
Correct,
this. Let's
correct.
just see what happens. I think it takes a lot of courage, and that is something we would also like to guide to all UCA final aspirants, that just hang in there. You've worked very hard, and I'm sure it's not for nothing. So don't get flown, don't get in the flow of emotions, and keep your calm, keep your nerves together. And I think if you're just able to take it one thing at a time, you should be able to get there eventually. Last question: any mistake that Parth made, and something that you would recommend all the students viewing you today to not make, or any kind of suggestion or advice that you'd like to give, any parting notes?
Parting, yeah. So suggestions, like I said, the most important thing would definitely be test series. Like Pooja ma'am said, that directly going to the paper,
Hmm.
just and have, the course is designed, the papers are put in a way that it really makes you doubt, okay, am I
Am
even
I?
capable of doing this? But then once you kind of hang in there, you need to build that nerve. So for that, I think that number one thing that helped me was writing a couple of test series beforehand.
Hmm.
So that would be my suggestion, that would be like my golden tip to everybody, that you definitely need to attempt write test series. You cannot skip out on test series at all. So I think, like I said, in my FR paper, I uh, I had attempted the first main question at the end, and I realized, once I got to it, I realized I did not know anything. I don't know. I wasn't sure what I was going to do.
Hmm.
But then in that, and I remember I had only like 15 minutes, and isme I had to still attempt the 14 marks sum, and I had a couple of MCQs that I had left before. And in that moment, I had to make a choice. Okay, fine. Even if I don't know this 14 marks, I am if I keep focusing on this, I will miss out on the 2 3
MCQs.
MCQs that I've
Hmm.
left. So in that moment, making that split second decision, right? Okay, fine, I forget this, I'll just move on to what I know. that is something that is you have to really build.
Build.
And for that you need to write test series. And one of the mistakes I would say that I made was, I feel like the mistake that most students make was just kind of, not taking it a very uh, not taking it very seriously. You need to cancel out all distractions. You need to make sure that you are waking up the studies, and you're waking up, you're studying, you're taking time out, just some time out to kind of refresh yourself, but majority of the time you have to spend studying. So I used to spend like 10 to 12 hours in 4.5 months. That was my daily schedule, daily, the number of hours that I used to allocate to studying. And after that, even if you have time on your hand, I would not recommend being on any social media apps or anything. I would recommend you rather do something else. You go for a walk, or you go to the
Mm.
you go somewhere else, go talk to your family, or
Mm.
anything except for social media, because we've developed this habit, like we wake up in the morning, first thing we need to check something.
Social media.
Before we sleep, we need to check something. But that is something that desperately needs to
Mm.
be gone from your routine, at least for. And it's only like 4.5 months. I would not, even I had not deleted everything before my study leave started. I only deleted it after my study
Mm.
leave has started. So just hanging in there for 4.5 months, just being consistent, being disciplined enough to be able to do this. Because eventually I am able to, I am today I am able to, I'm proud enough to be able to say that, even though 4.5 months I used to get a lot of pressure from my friends, okay, you can meet us for at least 1 hour, meet us for at least 2 hours. And I used to go sometime, but majority of the time, I feel like a lot of CA students run into this kind of mental block, wherein we're like, okay, what are we doing? It burnout, and the
Absolutely.
and the monotony of it gets to you, and it
Correct.
is very common. It also got to me. But in that moment, I feel like that is where your discipline would come in.
Mm.
That is where you need to sit and think, "Ki, this is why I'm doing it, and it's only 4.5 months. And once you put in this effort for 4.5 months, the reward is going to be it's going to be
It's going to
very
be
much
this.
it's going to be very much worth it. So yeah, that is the, I think, the tip that I would give to the students.
I think you literally have a gold mine, like I said earlier, with this interview with Parth, where he has touched every single point that can impact you in a good way. It can impact you. He has also warned you about things you should be cautious about, and I think it's just a lot of insights coming your way. So yes, take as much help, take as much insight as you possibly can, and you too could be where Parth is today. So thank you so much, Parth,
Thank you
for
so much.
sharing all these tips with the students. And that's all from our end. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much, everyone,
Thank you.
and congratulations
Thank
once
you so
again.
much. Thank you.